Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the 9.5 patch notes. Don't forget, like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and hit that bell. It does help other people find it to get some real in-depth insights into the patch notes, not just one of those 10-minute TLDR videos. And be sure to check out the rest of my tier list for the patch as well. I'm going to release a support tier list, AD carry tier list, and a jungle tier list. I might also do top lane and mid lane. We'll see how much time I have over the next few days to do that. And then I have a lot of other content on the channel as well. We stream every night starting around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you're welcome to come by and check that out. We also have lots of topical guides like best one tricks, best macro, how to improve in terms of micro, lane management, rotations, all sorts of stuff on the channel. So be sure to check all of that out. Okay, let's go ahead and get into here. Now, as far as Kayle and Morgana go, Morgana's basically the same thing. You just get a little bit of extra utility off of her ultimate. So I think she'll still be a counter-pick champion. She can be pretty good picked into Leona. Leona's very popular right now, or into Thresh. Thresh is still popular as well. But she can struggle into champions like Sona, like Nami, like Soraka, who can outscale her, and specifically champions that can get Mikhail's Crucible as well, so they can cleanse her bind later on. Tom Kench is also really good into her kind of at higher elos, which is why you don't see her a ton in like pro play. But she can still be a pretty good counter pick. Now, Kayle obviously got overhauled on this patch, and I did run some numbers in the practice tool. I spent probably about 45 minutes testing out different builds, testing out different potential exploits in there. And as far as I can tell, in terms of just sitting there at level 6 and just auto-attacking a dummy is what I did for my test to kind of see, you know, what's the best 1 item, 2 item, and 3 item power spike among popular items on her. The best single item power spike in terms of raw DPS, you're just sitting there auto-attacking somebody, was either Ginsu's Rush or Blade of the Ruined King Rush. That was going to give you about 180 DPS per second. I think I had Berserker's Greaves plus a completed item at level 6. So as you go up in transformation, when you start thinking about multi-target hits, then you could be thinking about maybe Hurricane could be pretty decent at that point. But I was just looking at single target just for these baseline tests, particularly the first item power spike. So Nashor's Tooth was actually only 150 DPS per second, or DPS, that's damage per second. With that, so Nashor's Tooth was the lowest. Blade of the Ruined King was... it's the highest if they have a lot of damage, but even if you are just hitting somebody who has 100 HP left, like the practice dummy, then it was still putting out about 180 damage per second. You also get healing off of that. You also get the active, which steals speed, which is great for her, so you can close the distance on him and do a lot more damage. So Blade of the Ruined King was surprisingly really powerful, and that's something that a lot of people really don't get on her. Virtually nobody's getting Blade of the Ruined King. Nobody's talking about that item. But it is very, very strong on her. Still, even as a single item power spike. So that could be a way to get around her rough laning phase. You know, that's what everyone's going to be saying, all the commentators. Oh, there's no way you can get her through lane in the top lane or the mid lane. So, you know, she's not going to be viable. I think her best spot might actually be in the jungle. You could play her kind of like a Master Yi, where you just look to scale up. Your ganks are subpar. But... you know, you can take dragons really fast. You can take barons really fast. Towers pretty quickly. You scale really well. So she's kind of like a Yi that has a little bit more protection with her ultimate near the end. So I think that's how you might see her, as like something like a Master Yi or maybe like a Jax. I think Jax can probably duel a little bit better than she can earlier on, but sort of like that, where you want to, you know, try to hit your power spike and move up the curve a little bit more. And just try to power farm until then. Now, I haven't tried her in the jungle yet, but I assume she can probably power farm pretty well, especially when she gets to level 6. But we'll see. But Blade of the Ruined King was a surprising standout here that nobody gets on her, but was actually pretty good as a first item power spike. And then Ginsu's Rage Blade, obviously everything that... everything about her kit just screams Ginsu's Rage Blade. You get double hit for all of your on-hit abilities. She has the AP ratio and the AD ratio. She likes the penetration on both of them, the physical and the magical. So that was actually surprisingly even a very good single item rush. But you have to also keep in mind that Nashor's Tooth does give you 20% CDR, which is pretty valuable on her, and that's not calculated because I was just doing just auto attacks. I wasn't including, you know, burst damage scenarios either. So I wasn't including hitting them with your E and just, you know, dropping all of your spells on them. In that case, you know, the AP ratios are going to be a bit stronger on some items, and Ginsu's is not going to be as strong Obviously, if you can't stack it up on minions or something first, if you have to go in and actually land 6 auto attacks on somebody to get the Ginsu's passive, it takes a while to ramp up. But Blade of the Ruined King, once again, does have that active, and that was, it does most of its damage up front when they are at higher health numbers. So that calculation for Blade was, once again, when they're just sitting at 100 health, just like the lowest you can get, pretty much, for Blade of the Ruined King procs. So I still think Blade is something that's going to be really underexplored, that could be potentially really powerful on her, and that lifesteal can help get her through the lane as well. So I think Blade is definitely worth considering. Once we get to 2-item power spike, Ginsu's plus Nashor's Tooth was the best by a, or that was like decent by a slim margin. You get to about 345 damage per second on that. Ginsu's plus Blade of the Ruined King actually gave you 350 on average, with much, much higher spikes when someone had more health. So once again, even when someone's at 100 health, Ginsu's plus Blade still putting out the most damage, but it does not have the extra CDR on it. But you got to keep in mind that Kayle doesn't need CDR as much as she used to, right? Because previously with Kayle, in order to keep your E up the entire time, which was your basically what makes you ranged, you had to have really high CDR, because it would basically have like 8 seconds of uptime and then a 16 flat seconds of downtime. So you needed, I think it was like somewhere between 30 to 40% CDR in order to have 100% uptime on your E. That's not true anymore. Once you proc your Exalted at level 6, or at level 11 rather, when you can keep her ranged the entire time, it always stays up once you get Exalted. So once you trigger this, once you get your stacks or whatever, then it stays up. As long as you're auto-attacking champions or towers, you're going to stay ranged, so you don't need the cooldown reduction as much as you did in the past. Now, it is helpful because you get to do this, basic attack a little bit faster, right, which does a percentage of their missing health. So obviously CDR is pretty good. Her cooldowns are kind of long, so you do benefit from it, but you don't need it for your kit to work as much as you did in the past. So, if Blade of the Ruined King gets you through the laning phase, even though it doesn't have CDR on it, it might be worth considering, especially if they have a lot of tanks on the enemy team. Now, Nashor's, because it comes online, it's a little bit more cost efficient, and it's better against squishies. You might consider Nashor's. But if you're running Kayle top into something like a Scion or into something like a Cho'Gath, Blade somewhere early might make sense. Certainly mathematically, if you're sitting there just DPSing somebody down, it's going to make a bit more sense, and it has more burst because you have that Bilgewater active in there, right? So just something to consider. That was something that just nobody ever runs on Kayle, because in the past you had to have the CDR, but now you don't have to have it as much, so it might be worth considering Blade, particularly in tough lanes, or if you're against a tank. And then the best combo, so Nashor's plus Ginsu's plus Blade was giving you about 530 at a 3-item spike at level 6. And then Nashor's plus Ginsu's plus Wit's End was actually really good, which is something that you see a lot of people running here, Nashor, Ginsu, Wit's End. So that was actually a really good buy as well at 3 items. So Wits is pretty good because it's a very cheap item as well. So that's the main thing about that 3-item power spike, is it's so cheap because Wit's End is only 2,400. Versus the Nashor's, Ginsu's, Blade of the Ruined King. Blade of the Ruined King, I believe, is 3,200. And so it's 800 less gold to get the same DPS output with Wit's End. Wit's End also gives you some protection with the 40 magic resist, and it shreds the magic resist for your entire team. So yes, it does help you out in terms of helping you do more damage, but it also helps your team out if you have other magic dealers. You've got an Evelyn, an Elise, Cassiopeia, Lysandra, whatever it is that's doing magic damage on your team. Wits does provide that utility as well. So Wits End is a pretty good 3rd-item power spike. I will say the absolute worst option in terms of overall DPS was Deathcap by far. And there's still too many people that get Deathcap. I guess not a lot of people are getting it. Now, Deathcap is going to give you more upfront burst, off of your E and off of your... your Q or whatever. But the Q is relatively hard to hit. It doesn't have a very good AP ratio on it. The E doesn't even have an AP ratio on it. So I think this is a really big mistake. I mean, your ult does have an AP ratio on it, so that will give you a little bit more burst if you ult. But as far as just raw DPS, just sitting there, just auto-attacking people down, which is where most of her damage is going to come from, it was really anemic. It was only 500 damage per second with Nashor's, Gensu's, plus Death Cap. And it's very expensive. It's 3,600 gold. So when you can buy Wits End, which is 2,400 gold, you know, which is like 1,200 gold cheaper, and you get defense out of it, and you get the utility of helping your overall team do more damage by shredding that magic, I mean, it's a no-brainer to me, especially if you're already invested in Nashor's plus Gensu, which is what most people get, and then they'll get Death Cap after that. I think Death Cap is a huge inefficiency in terms of gold. I mean, people are trying it out, but she just doesn't have the ratios to support that. I just don't think she has the burst to support that. Witchbane, similarly, I think is pretty trash. I mean, it does give you a little bit of extra burst up front, which once again is maybe people think you need that, but it's very expensive. You know, it's also another 3,200 gold item. It has pretty low sustained damage because most of her abilities have long cooldowns. So, you know, all of them are going to have at least 8 seconds, 8 seconds. So you're really not going to be able to spam the Lich damage that much. And a lot of your stuff really doesn't do that much burst damage, right? Like, this stuff is damage over time. They have to be missing health for your E to really do anything. The E active. You know, this is like low damage that applies to your auto attacks. This is, I mean, it's okay damage if you land it. It has a delay on it. It's pretty easy to dodge. But Kayle is a damage over time attacker. I don't really like the Witchbane or the Deathcat build, and overall it's just pretty inefficient. Now, another build that you could see sometimes is Hurricane. So after you reach level 11, you're permanently ranged, I believe. Or is that only, let me see if that's only whenever you're exalted or not. The way this is worded, Kayle becomes a ranged champion, period. And then Zealous attacks bonus damage is increased to this amount. Okay, so it doesn't say only when you're exalted. It says she's permanently ranged. So you can auto attack, and then when you get exalted, then you fire these waves. So I think you're just permanently ranged at 550. I haven't tested that out yet, but I think you're permanently ranged, and then once you trigger exalted, then you get the flames and all that stuff. So that's when getting something like Hurricane as a third item once you're ranged could start making a bit of sense. Now, Hurricane, Nashor's plus Gensu's plus Hurricane instead of Wits End. Hurricane is also a fairly cheap item. It's 2,600, so it's only 200 more than Wits End. It doesn't give you the protection. It doesn't give you the magic resist. But the overall DPS was 430, which was super anemic. So against a single target, it's way weaker. Remember that Nashor's plus Gensu's plus Wits was 530, so that clocks in at 100 DPS weaker against a single target. However, each additional target with that build is going to give you an extra 120 DPS. So if you're hitting 2 targets, then it does go positive. It gets you to 550 DPS versus the 530. And if you're hitting the full 3 targets, then that's going to take you up to 670. So it's way, way more at 3 targets, but it's a lot less at 2 targets. Now, that includes the extra damage. That's just auto-attacking dummies. So that includes the extra damage off of Nashor's and the extra procs off of Gensu's with Hurricane and all of that other stuff. So that's everything, damage over time. So much weaker at single target, marginally better at 2 targets, but you're losing the utility of not having the magic resist or the shred, and then way more damage at 3 targets. So if you think they're actually all going to group up and you're going to be team fighting a lot, Hurricane can be pretty good. But if you're going to be split pushing a lot, or you're going to be doing small scale skirmishes, or if they have a lot of ranged champions, then Hurricane is not going to be as good overall in those scenarios. So I think most of the time Hurricane is going to be a little bit weaker than Wits, because I think in solo queue, people aren't going to be grouped up, and they have to be in a pretty tight little zone. They have to be very close together to get that kind of DPS out of it. So that is weak. Now, one thing to note here is that those fire waves can critically strike. So I thought about, you know, can you go a crit build with her and get those waves to critically strike? But the thing is, the waves don't do a ton. But, I mean, they're all right, but they don't do a ton. You know, getting something like Hurricane, it's a nice little bonus, but I wouldn't get something like Infinity Edge on her. You're just going to benefit a lot more just from having higher attack speed in general. It's going to allow you to stack your passive a lot more to trigger the Exalted. And then, of course, whenever you get to the true damage does not crit, I don't believe. It might. The true damage might crit off of that, but in general, I think true damage stuff doesn't crit. I'm not 100% about that one, though. So that's an interesting interaction. Spell effects off of your E actually do trigger twice, like it says right here, which is something a lot of people aren't probably calculating in her damage. So whenever you attack somebody with Starfire Blade, hitting that initial person does this damage, the 10 to 30, and then this ratio. But then the wave, which lands after them, also does this. So it's the exact same number, but it applies twice on your main target that you hit, and then the wave hitting them after that. So this is really a 0.4 AD ratio, 10% total attack damage, and then 20 to 60 damage over time. So it's pretty good. It does apply spell effects, but it does not apply on-hit effects. So that wave does not apply Blade of the Ruined King on everybody. It does not apply the Nashers or the Ginsu hits on everybody. That only applies to the first target that you hit. So the only spell effect that can proc off of that is something like Comet. And I did try out the Comet build to see, just how good it is. If you're hitting multiple targets in a team fight, that actually does lower the cooldown of Comet every single auto attack. So you could have a Cassiopeia type of situation here where you're just triggering that Comet over and over again if you're hitting multiple targets with it. So your main attack does not trigger Comet, but the extra splash off of the wave does lower the cooldown of Comet, and it does trigger it. So you could see a build where people try to go Comet on Kayle and just spam that a lot late game in team fights, and maybe that's going to be better than Lethal Tempo. I don't know. I think Lethal is probably still going to be better as far as overall damage output, but there's another build that we'll talk about here in a second that I think could be pretty good as well. But yeah, those are just some neat interactions. I feel like people will find some build that's going to break Kayle. I think it's going to take people a little bit of time and a little bit of calculations to figure that out. But it does apply spell effects, the wave, and it can critically strike. But the spell effects are very limited. It would only be something like Leandre's or Comet, any kind of spell vamp like Ravenous Hunter would trigger off of that, hitting multiple people. So that could be pretty good against like minion waves. You could heal up a lot off of waves when you get exalted, and then those waves, your waves are hitting the minion waves, your fire waves are hitting the minion waves. You can actually heal quite a bit off of that, I think. Good job, Rory. What do you got there? Rory. Okay, I'm kind of watching my daughter here, and she is being pretty good, but now she's starting to press a lot of buttons on the phone, so I don't know what she's going to get into on YouTube, but I guess we're going to find out. So that's something that's interesting. Now, another thing is the wording of this is interesting, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this, but read this. Upon spending 6, 11, and 16 points, Kayle ascends to reach these different bonuses. So the thing that everybody recognizes about Kayle is that at level 16, she could be extremely powerful because you get true damage on your waves. So everyone thinks, oh, well, you have to get to level 16 to hit this. That's not entirely true. That's true most of the time. What you have to do is spend 16 skill points. So how could you get around this? Kleptomancy. Okay, so if we go look at Klepto, Kleptomancy, you can actually get a thing called Elixir of Skill. Okay, now, I don't know all of the behind-the-scenes stuff. It might say it here. Elixir of Skill has been nerfed quite a bit, so I'm not sure the level at which you can proc it. I know that certain items are much more likely at certain level breakpoints. So at higher levels, I think you're more likely to get things like Elixir of Skill. You're more likely to get some of these elixirs, and you're less likely to get things like mana potions and health potions. So I sat there and attacked and used a bunch of spells at level 5 for quite a long time. I mean, for maybe like 3 minutes, I just sat there and just got 40% CDR and just spammed spells and kept attacking. I didn't get a single elixir of skill at level 5. I tried it at level 10. Didn't get an elixir of skill either. Another few minutes of spamming spells. But when I was level 15, I got one almost immediately. So I don't know if that was luck, but I think when you get to a higher level, you have a higher chance of getting it. But I did test this out. If you are level 15 and you drink an elixir of skill, it does allow you to become exalted without being level 16. So you can't level up your ult because that's one of the rules of the elixir of skill. It doesn't allow you to put more points into a skill than you would be allowed to put in at that particular breakpoint. So if you're level 15, you can't get a level 3 ult off your elixir of skill, but you can put a point in some other ability. It counts as spending 16 total points, and that does trigger your exalted, your level 16 exalted. So that means that in theory, if you run something like Kleptomancy and you're proccing it fairly regularly, if you get 1 elixir of skill, you can get exalted at level 15. If you get 2, you can get it at level 14. I think it's probably being too optimistic to think you could get 3. It's possible, but I think this could allow you to cheat that system by like maybe 2 levels and get your God mode going at level 14 instead of level 16, which can be a pretty big deal. I mean, I think that means you're going to get it, you know, maybe like 3 minutes faster than you normally would. It also gives you a lot of extra gold, so you know, can get to items because she scales extremely well with items. I mean, her DPS starts going up really high, and all of her items have really good synergy. So if you go Nashor's first, then Ginsu's, then Wit's End, you're dealing a ton of damage. And so I think that that it can serve double purpose. It can allow you to get to your item breakpoints faster, and it can allow you to get exalted faster, and it can just give you some extra sustain in lane. You can get some mana potions. You can get some pilfered health potions. You know, obviously those sacks of gold, some wards to help you so you don't get ganked as easily. So I think there are a lot of items you could get that are useful, and then you can also take magical footwear and then either cosmic insight, or you could even think about approach velocity. You know, if you apply a slow to somebody, then you might be able to run even faster towards them. It's probably a little gimmicky, but cosmic insight's very good, gives you an extra little bit of CDR on stuff. And then if it's a really tough lane, you could even go biscuit delivery if you want to. Minion Dematerializer would allow you to ensure you can get those cannons at least, not get trolled out of that, pressured off the cannons, and it can give you more wave push for late game split pushing. So I think there's a lot of potential to go Inspiration and to get Kleptomancy so that you get that gold going, you get that sustain early, and you can get those elixirs of skill. And she can trigger it pretty consistently and easily. You know, all you have to do is activate your Starfire. It gives you a ranged attack, then just auto-attack them. Now, you can't hit them multiple times with it, I don't believe. So Kayle's next basic attack is 6 seconds. So yeah, once you get to level 11, you can trigger it very easily. But that will only give you one ability to do this early, but it only costs 50 mana early on, which isn't a ton. It's kind of like Gangplank with Kleptomancy, right? You just go up and just, you know, parlay them effectively with this. People get it on Gangplank. They have in the past. I think it could work on Kayle for similar reasons. So I don't know. I think that could be pretty good. You know, you are going to be getting a Nashor's in the early game as well. So that could potentially give you even more CDR to proc it even more. So I think it's a decent build, and I think that that's something that a lot of people are going to overlook for a while. You're probably going to see an all-caps video from Philol here in like a week talking about that. Oh my god, Kleptomancy Kayle is OP. But, you know, we'll see. Is it enough to make her viable in the top lane? I don't know. I'm just trying to give you as many different loopholes that I could find with Kayle that could potentially make her a bit more viable. So remember, that's going to be getting things like Nashor's, Ginsu's early. Kleptomancy can help you cheat the system a little bit. It does apply on-hit spell effects. Maybe there's a Comet build that can really come online late game when you're hitting a bunch of people in team fights and that Comet's just rolling out every 2 or 3 seconds like a Cassiopeia. I think that jungling could be okay with her. She can get that jungle item, the Blood Razor or whatever. She can do like a Master Yi kind of build where you would go something like Blood Razor plus like either Blade of the Ruined King or Ginsu's, and then get the other one right after that. So you could do, you know, have those 3 items, take Barons quickly, Dragons quickly, kind of like be a little mini Master Yi that has a bit more utility but a lot less raw like 1v9 power, at least in the mid game. So those are all the things I can think of Kayle. Do I think she's going to be viable? I think people will try. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Looks like people are doing like okay on her, you know, in this last 24 hours. Everyone's trying her out. This thing is terrible. Don't ever get Hextech Gunblade. If you want something like that with more immediate power, please go Blade of the Ruined King. It's going to give you way more DPS over time. But I think it's probably going to be Nashor's, Ginsu's, then X are their item. And I think the best X is probably Wit's End, but it could be Blade of the Ruined King in some matchups as well. I don't like Fleet at all. I mean, that can get you through the laning phase a little bit. I think Klepto is way, way better, though, because you can cheat the system in ways that I think people aren't quite realizing yet. So, we'll see. Anyways, Klepto is also amazing on Draven. The new Conqueror is terrible on Draven. Do not get it. Klepto is so much better on him because every time you turn on your Spinning Axe, there's your Klepto procs. And you can use Blood Rush on Draven with your W, which is almost free. It's like 30 mana. And as soon as you catch an axe, it's off cooldown. So it's like literally over and over and over again, you can proc Kleptomancy. It's like non-stop Klepto with Draven. And you don't have to hit a skill shot like Ezreal. You literally just walk up and auto-attack them. And you get Klepto procs. So you just turn on your Spinning Axe or you press Blood Rush with your W. And you automatically get those Klepto procs every single time. You can make a ton of cash money. You can save some money on boots. You can, you know, just get all kinds of good stuff with Draven. So do not go Conquer. It is a hot pile of garbage now on Draven. Get Klepto. I'm telling you here right now, before you start seeing the all caps videos, when somebody else figures this out in a week or two, do it. It's free low right now. Okay. But let's go ahead and move on. It is a patch notes video. It's not all about Kayle, but I know everyone's going to be asking about Kayle. People have been asking me for weeks about her. What do I think? I've actually practiced her in the practice tool, not in live game. And those are the things that I came up with. Okay, so rest of the patch notes. Akali, we'll see. Her win rate's really low. She's a very high skill cap champion. These look like some okay adjustments. You get a bit more speed. Your Twilight Shroud is going to be a little bit better. This is a pretty nice quality of life. You get the full 3 seconds by just stepping in and out one time, so you don't have to keep going in and out over and over again. This is really huge. 20 less seconds on your ult. That's a lot of uptime on that ult. So that's going to make you much safer because remember, this is a very good escape. If this is up, she's never getting ganked. And then she can all in with it as well. So she has a really powerful ult. So I think this is going to help her a ton. And then she gets an extra 30 damage on her first shuriken flip or whatever. Now she is losing 10 on the back half, but that's still plus 20 early on. And you could actually use this to kind of poke people out a little bit sometimes too. You don't have to take the second cast. So I think these are really good quality life buffs. Do I think she's automatically going to be OP again? I don't think so, but I do think that, you know, she'll probably gain 2% off of this. I could see her moving up to 47, 48% win rate off of this. If you're really good on her, I think this will definitely help out a ton. But for most people, probably not going to matter. Maybe you see her in pro play a little bit more after this. We'll see. Okay, Neeko, not going to matter. I mean, this is just kind of the forgotten champion. Some people have said that, I forgot, I think it was maybe, it was either Freak or LS. I watched both of their patch notes videos. We're talking about like an on-hit Neeko build. I haven't heard about that. I guess that would be something like a, I don't even know, like a Wit's End, Nashor's Tooth kind of build on her. Maybe top lane Neeko with that. I'm not sure about that. Kind of like old Kennen used to be. I mean, I don't see a lot of people playing around with that as far as I can see here. I don't know why we're getting a little bit of lag, but either way, I just don't think she matters that much. I know a couple of pro teams have tried her out a little bit, so I guess this is kind of the on-hit build with the Blatherin King plus Gensu's type of stuff. I mean, she does have the extra, you know, every third attack does a certain percentage type of damage, so she does have the mechanic that was similar to old Kennen. It's just not loading up right now. Looks like a lot of people are actually doing that build. Let me see if u.gg is any better here. I don't know why that's taken forever. Okay. I can't see all the win rates. Looks like a lot of people, yeah, they're starting with Blatherin King and then press the attack. Probably, I would imagine, top lane to harass. I mean, maybe you do have a good escape. I mean, obviously that build is going to make the, like, your ultimate kind of worthless, although they did nerf the AP ratio on it. But she is very slippery, you know. She's quick. She does have that stun off of her E. I don't know. Maybe this is better than I think it is. Like Blatherin King Gensu's build and then like a Wit's End to cap it off. That's definitely a split push build. That's way, way worse in team fights. So just like old Kennen, I didn't like it in solo queue because it was a lot weaker in team fights and you had to split. But in like pro play, that's going to be a lot stronger if you understand how to split correctly and work around that. So, and not get caught. So we'll see. She can escape really easily if people try to engage on you with the split push with her W. So I don't know. Maybe it's better than I think it is. Either way, I don't think this change is going to affect that too much. I mean, it just kind of clarifies in her roots. So I don't think it's going to matter too much. Maybe the on-hit Neeko is pretty good in the top lane. We'll see. Grand entrance with Rakan. I don't think this is going to matter that much. So it used to give you, you'd usually get Moby Boots pretty quick on him, which would give you 1480. So, you know, getting an extra 20 move speed when you're like level 8 or something is not really that big. I mean, I guess early on for like the first 6 or 7 levels, this is going to help you out a little bit, giving you 100 extra movement speed, but that's not really that much. When you consider they took away like 600, it was more than that. I think he used to have like 2100 base. Let me see. I think he used to have something like 2100 base, and then you got extra, like a ton of extra bonus movement speed based on, yeah. Grand entrance. When was it? Okay, I was 9.2. So it used to be 2050 plus 30% of your move speed. So when you had like Moby Boots, you'd have, you know, like 450 move speed, so you get an extra 150 off of that, something thereabouts, right? And so that means you'd get like 2200 movement speed. So we went from like 2200 as the common movement speed to like 1500. I mean, it's like a 30% decrease in your movement. And if you played Rakan before this nerf and after this nerf, you will see it is unbelievable just how much this hurt him and just how terrible it feels. It is so bad. Someone has to have like 500 ping to get hit by his W when it's not in ult form. I mean, the thing that I think is if they want to do this, they just need to get rid of the delay altogether. That would fix it. So if it was like an Alistar, when as soon as you get to that point, wherever you click, you instantly knock him up. I think that would work. And then that would still slow him whenever he uses his ult. He would still move like a grandma over to somebody so they would have time to outplay. But when he's not ulting, that would make his W feel like not complete trash. So that's what I would do. I would just remove this delay entirely. And then that's how they nerf his ult, but keep his normal W relevant. It's still going to take him longer to get to his destination, but whenever he gets there, at least he's going to knock people up. And that wouldn't even be like that much better with his ult, right? Because when you go over there and you charm him and you knock him up instantly, it's actually going to be less CC over time, because when you get there, they're going to be CC'd for an extra 0.35 seconds while he's setting up, and then they get knocked up for that duration. So that would actually lower his total CC time on the ult plus W as well. So that would actually be a little bit of an extra nerf to his ult plus W, but it would make his normal W feel like it's not terrible. So that's what I would do if I was the balance team. Just remove the delay. And then that hurts the ult plus W, but keeps his W relevant. And that's the big issue right now, is it just feels like you're worthless without your ult in a lot of situations. So we'll see. But they are giving him some light buffs. He's not like it's unplayable right now. Like, he's pretty good into some matchups. Like, he's good with Xayah, and he can be good if they have a lot of like dive AD assassins, because he can itemize armor first with Zeke's. So he applies a shield, and he also protects himself with that armor. And he has his own personal shield, and he can take, you know, Guardian and things like that early. So he has some nice tools in his kit against AD assassins like a Zed or a Rengar, Talon, that type of thing. Because, yeah, like, there are other, like, you can take a normal tanky thing like Alistar, but if they, like, one-shot your AD carry, Alistar doesn't have shields to help out with that, you know? And you're taking Aftershock, so you're not going to have Guardian on Alistar. So Rakan can max his shield, and he can take Guardian, and both protect his AD carry from the damage and protect himself by getting armor. So I just think that he still has really good peel against AD assassins. You can take Lulu and do stuff like that as well. But anyway, so I think he's okay. He's probably my favorite support, so it really sucked when he got gutted, but it is what it is. I don't think this is going to make him that much better than he already is in most situations. You do get a bit more damage off your W's, so you'll probably max W instead of max your E now, so you'll go like 2 or 3 points of Q in lane and then max W. It'll give you a little bit more damage, a little bit more all-in potential, but overall, I don't think it's going to change his position no matter that much. Okay, Skarner, this is actually a really big deal. So Spires don't appear on the minimap anymore, which means that you can't tell where Skarner is. as easily if he's invading you and taking your spires, or if he's trying to go for dragon or something like that. You don't get a free spot on him. Because before, what you could do is you could just make sure that you have control of that spire in the river, and then if he ever goes to clear that, even if you don't have a ward on it, you can see that he did it if you're paying attention, and you'll know that he's in the river. So it basically gave your team like a de facto ward as long as you controlled that spire in the river. So that's a really nice quality of life buff for him. And the spire radius going up like 50% is insane. Like, yeah, that does put you in range so that now you can actually clear the Krugs and the Raptors really easily, which is good. I was just seeing what she's looking at over there. Which is good, but it also means that you can fight more in the jungle within this, and that you're going to get more mana regen the entire time in the jungle. So if you look at Skarner here, and Skarner does get picked in pro play sometimes. You can take Predator on him. You can take something like Righteous Glory on him, just kind of like a little mini Olaf. He's not going to be like as tanky as Olaf, but he has more CC, especially when his flash is up. He can be very, very strong, particularly on AP champions that don't want to get a Quicksilver Sash. So if we keep seeing a lot of AP champions, particularly mages in the mid lane, you're seeing a bunch of Zoes, you're seeing a bunch of, you know, Oriannas, Lissandras. Lissandra's kind of a special case because she's just really hard to blow up. But if you're seeing these types of mages and there's less AD champions in the middle, less bruisers, you know, moving away from the Irelias, the Aatroxes, all of that stuff, then you could see him. Because obviously AD champs are like, it still sucks to get a Quicksilver Sash as an AD champ, but why can't I find, it's been so long since I've even looked for him. I've forgotten what he looks like. But it's a pain in the ass. You know, if you have to get a Quicksilver Sash on an Orianna, it doesn't build in anything. It's complete trash. Whereas, you know, on an AD champion, eventually you can turn that into the lifesteal item as well. But pretty low cooldown on the ult, 120, and then with his Crystal Spires, it gives you 2% of your maximum mana every second. So this is going to give him a lot more clear potential. He's going to power through that jungle, and if he wants to invade, he's not usually a hard invade champ, but if he does want to invade, then he will be able to fight the enemy in that jungle a lot more. And even just in the river, you're going to be able to cover a lot more of the river whenever you want to fight. So, you know, having those spires, every single spire on the map, increase by like 50%, means way, way more surface area on the map is going to be covered by this, which means he's constantly going to get this extra mana regen, and he's going to get a lot of extra movement speed, so he's going to be able to zip around the jungle a hell of a lot faster as well. And he's going to get a lot of extra bonus attack speed. So I think this is a really huge buff for Skarner. I think it's a very big deal, and he'll be a way stronger in solo queue, and you might even see him in pro play. Okay, Vi. I forgot. I meant to run the numbers on Vi to see if she might be viable as a support potentially with some of these changes. Probably not, but like maybe you could see her in the top lane. I think that this thing doing basically 25% more damage to AoE targets is going to give her a lot of, I think that's going to help her jungle clear like immensely, particularly against things like Raptors, against things like Krugs. It's going to help her out a ton. And then that can give her a ton of wave clear too, right? Now, I don't think ultimately if you were to run her top lane, she's not going to be able to split push versus a Camille or a Fiora or any like big timer split pusher, right, Rory? Uh-oh. Is the phone not working? Here, let me see. Can you hand it to me? I'll fix it for you. Can I see it, Rory? Rory. Come on. I'll fix it for you. Okay, let me fix it, okay? Let me see what you got here. What are you... Okay, hold on, Rory. I'm going to fix it, okay? So many random-ass videos she clicked on. Learn colors with Pac-Man. Aprende los colores. Video education. She clicked on some kind of Spanish video about learning colors. Now my phone is like, the default is like 100% zoomed in. Okay, let me just type in Elmo. That's what she wants. Sorry. I just need to... Okay, well, she's playing with the puzzle right now. Maybe she's cool with... I brought some puzzles and stuff in here for her. Because I'm just really strapped for time today, but I need to get some guides, and I need to get this tier list, or patch notes, tier list, all that stuff going. We'll see. I'll hold on to this in reserve, and then if she gets bored with the puzzle... Oh, watch out, Sadie, sorry. If she gets bored with the puzzle, we can give her the phone. But she's having fun with the puzzle now. Okay, anyways, so that's going to help her out a lot with the wave clear, attack speed. You do get extra attack speed, which is nice. Blast cooldown by 3 seconds whenever you proc denting blows. Okay, so let me look at it really quickly. Now, that's a big thing, I think, because you might... Okay, you want it? Here you go. She's like, hey, I handed you that because you were going to fix it. Okay, you want to go back in your seat and watch it? What? Hold on, it's going. Yeah, hold on. Oh, Rory, you pressed something weird. Here. Don't press it. Wait. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Wait. I know, you don't like waiting. Hold on. Here, hold on. What? Okay. You want to go sit down and watch it? Yeah, just watch that for like another like 15 minutes, and then we'll go get something to eat, and we'll go run around in the living room. Damn, that thing's loud as hell. Hold on a second. Rory, look. Okay. Rory, why don't you go sit down and watch that? Okay, let me just see Vi real quick. I need to see like that how easy it is to proc denting blows and the cooldown on it. Once again, haven't clicked on Vi in a million years. Okay. Okay, so there's no cooldown on it. Vi's basic attacks and her Vault Breaker apply denting blows to enemies hit, stacking up to 3 times. At 3 denting blows, she consumes them. Okay, so every attack and Vault Breaker triggers it. Vi consumes them to deal physical damage. For the next 4 seconds, Vi gains... The target has 20% reduced armor. Okay, so that's versus everybody. All right, so that can help your team out with the reduced armor, not just Vi. So that could make it a support type of thing. So she does gain extra attack speed, and it does 10% of the target's maximum health. Now, there's something that... Okay, it's excessive force. It resets her auto attack. Periodically stores 2 of these. So she gains extra range, deals physical damage to all enemies in front of her. Okay, it can critically strike. Don't get crit on her, please. That's troll. They're just, like, trying to troll people. 1.1 total attack damage and a little bit of extra ability power. Probably not going to matter. I think that's a nerf. It gives you a bigger shield, though. So if you trigger it once within the 8-second window, it's about the same, but you have to trigger like the extra cooldown by getting denting blows every now and then. But it does give you a fairly big shield. It's 15% of your max health. For up to 3 seconds. Hitting an enemy with an... Okay, you have to hit them with an ability, though, to get it. I thought you just naturally got the shield. Okay, well, that... Yeah, I don't think she's going to be able to work as support then. I thought you naturally got this shield, but you have to hit somebody to get it. I mean, I guess you can go in and try to figure that out. We'll see. I really don't think it's going to matter that much, honestly. I was thinking maybe with, like, the extra shield, maybe she could be a support, but I don't think so. Yeah, it's knocking people aside for a little bit extra. It does stun them for an extra half a second, which is really good. And it deals 25% extra damage to secondary targets. I think something like Nautilus is just going to be better if you want this type of thing, if like Leona's banned or something. Yeah, I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, it does give her a lot. The biggest thing is it's going to give her a hell of a lot more clear in the jungle with her Q. I think that's the biggest deal. And she gets a lot more attack speed off of denting blows. So that'll help her out with some of the big targets. So she's going to have a faster clear. It's like, will that be enough, though? Vi is like a mid-game jungler. You know, once she gets her warrior plus Trinity Force, she really needs to move around the map and make plays happen and start killing people, because she's going to get outscaled by a lot of other champions out there. Rory, you keep pressing buttons and it goes away. You need help? Okay. Well, let's press on something that looks fun. It's all like kid stuff it's suggesting to her on there. It's not like she's going to run into like some kind of like dark web stuff. At least as far as I can tell. She's just clicking on YouTube suggested videos for Elmo. Good job, Rory. But anyways, yeah, so we'll see. I mean, she definitely is going to get a bit better, maybe an extra percentage or something here or there. If you really take advantage of her ganks at level 6, then maybe it can work. It gives people a lot of time to help her out, so it gives all the enchanters time. You know, Lulu can ult her target. Sona can heal through them. She can be exhausted before she does most of her damage if she's rolling up. It just gives everybody all day. If they have Hourglass or Stopwatch, they can Hourglass or Stopwatch out of it, or just anything else that makes them untargetable. Tahm Kench can eat them out of it. Not that you're going to see that a lot in solo queue, but, you know, there's just so many, like, it gives you years and years to try to counterplay her. Or you can, like, dash over a wall, you know, if you're Lucian or Ezreal or something like that, and she starts this on you, just to kind of get away, put a little bit of distance between her and the rest of her team, which can make it difficult for people to follow up. They can also flash under tower, I believe, when you're running at them, so it can pull you under the tower. Yeah, because they can still do stuff. They aren't, like, stunned while you start it. They're stunned once you grab them. So, yeah, it's like they can just pull you under tower. I don't know. I think there's a lot of counterplay to her to an extent. But the faster jungle clear, if you can really get on it, make some good plays, you know, maybe she'll be a lot stronger. Okay, Relic Shield, this is probably not going to matter in solo queue. It will matter a little bit more in pro play. You're going to lose a little bit of sustain in lane off of this. In solo queue, a lot of times they're, you know, a lot of the popular 80 carries are going to be taking lifesteal anyways. If you think about Lucian, you think about Vayne. Be careful, Rory. Think about Lucian and Vayne. They're going to be getting Vamp Scepters anyways. Ezreal is going to be getting a lot of potions off of his Klepto procs. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. A little bit, but I don't think it's going to change the priority in pro play or solo queue that much. Maybe I'm underestimating it. I don't think it's going to matter. Okay, you do get a bit more value off of this item now. 5 attack damage is going to be worth, you know, like 175 gold. 5% attack speed is going to be worth an extra 125. So you're getting an extra 300 gold value off of this, which is definitely not trivial. But at the same time, it's just a really awkward item because it, like, wants you to get crit, or like it wants you to get the other Energizer items. I guess they actually stealth made the Energizer items passive. Rory, come here. Let me see that. Can I see it? You want help? What did you do? Okay. She was getting off of that. I didn't want her to, like, click on weird things in the like get into some weird apps or something. She was getting out of YouTube and clicking on random apps. Okay, hang on. She's like, wait a minute, bro. She started playing with a puzzle. I thought she was going to drop it and not want it anymore. She's like, no, no, no. That was our deal. I get to watch this while you're making this video. Okay, a deal's a deal. Don't let her watch like a ton of TV and a little bit. But we went to the park earlier for about an hour and a half. Then she took a good nap, so she can watch some TV for, if TV on the phone for, you know, 40 minutes or so here. That'll be fine. Anyways, so it's okay. I still don't think a lot of people are going to get this. I mean, maybe people who want attack speed and attack damage but don't care about crit. So maybe like on-hit builds. It doesn't have a really powerful on-hit effect, though, but it does have raw attack damage and raw attack speed. It's just a really weird item. I don't think a lot of people are going to get it, but this might open up some abuse cases maybe, but I don't see it. I mean, maybe like a Draven or something. If Draven's going for like a but he likes to get Infinity Edge though. How much? It's still only 91% efficient. Moving a base energized deals 50 bonus damage on hit. It just seems rough. Or you want to play with Rory? Okay. But anyways, if you want to transition her to the TV for a little bit, that's the only way she'll let you take that phone without freaking out, probably. Or if you give her some food. You got to trade her for it. Okay. My mom's over here. She was taking a nap for a little bit, but she was looking after Rory for a lot of the day. Okay. So Aftershock, this is a pretty significant nerf. It's going to be half a second off here. We'll see. I don't think it's going to push Aftershock completely out of the meta. But it is going to make champions who get in there and don't close the fight out in 2.5 seconds. A lot of Aftershock champs, the fight's already decided in 2.5 seconds because they're going in, you know, they're doing their thing, they're dropping all their spells, and then one way or another, the fight's over. But if it's a champion that's going in there and sticking around a little bit longer, like a, you know, a Sejuani or maybe an Alistar or something like that, then this could make a big difference. So we'll see. It definitely is going to help out people that are trying to kill that person that has Aftershock on them, but I don't know how big of a deal it's going to be. We'll see. Conqueror getting nerfed again, so now it's going to 2 to 6 damage per stack. I think this rune is highly overrated. I think it's just not that great on a lot of champions. I think they kind of overreacted to it, nerfing it this much. It'll still be good on some champs that can proc it really efficiently, like maybe Riven. Not Draven. Do not get this on Draven. But a lot of other champions, I think, that used to get the old Conqueror, that are trying to get this. It's just, it takes so long to stack up if you don't have a gimmick to do it quickly. And the reward is just not nearly as much as it used to be. So, you know, we'll see. I think a lot of people are still going to be getting it because they don't read patch notes or they don't understand or they get hustled by all caps videos. But overall, I think it's going to be pretty weak on a lot of champs. Okay, cut down. Not going to matter most of the time. 5 to 12% versus targets with... Okay, so it's good against tanks, but it's better against tanks, but most of the time. It's not a ton of tanks in solo queue right now in general. And yeah, coup de grace is way better, almost always. Okay, Vorpal Spikes. You do get a little bit of extra damage. This is something that you max early. So you do get 3 hits of this, so it's only 10 damage. But it really ends up being 30. So instead of doing 180 damage, you're doing 210 when you get all 3 of your hits on somebody. So not a huge amount, but maybe it helps. Masochism, 3% per stack up to 42%. So this is pretty huge. I mean, 42% extra magic resist. Now, I don't know if this is 42% of whatever your total magic resist is, or if this is just straight up like... if it gives you 42% magic resist, period, or it gives you 42% more magic resist. So what I'm wondering is, if you have 100 magic resist, is this only going to give you 42 resist? Or is it going to be the 100 magic resist gives you 42% damage reduction on magic, or gives you 50% damage reduction on magic, and then you get this 42% on top of that? Let me see how it's worded on him here really quickly. I don't want this to be too long. Where are we at? We're getting close to an hour, so we got to run through this a little bit faster, but we hit most of the high points, honestly. But I think, you know, the TLDR here is I think Mundo is going to be a little bit stronger against magic people top. Increases Dr. Mundo's magic resistance by 43%. Health cost, the amount of attack damage, physical damage, blah, blah, blah. I think it's the less oppressive one. So I don't think it's the night if you have this max stacked with 100 magic resist and you're blocking 92% of magic damage. That would be pretty insane. But getting an extra 42% would mean that, you know, if you have 100, then you're getting an extra 42 magic resist, which is still a lot of value off of that. I mean, that's going to be like 500, 600 gold value. So I think he will get picked as a specific counter pick against top lane magic users. So if they have like a Rumble, a Singe, a Cassiopeia, something like that. If he gets Spirit Visage plus this passive plus something like Adaptive Helm, he's just pretty much unkillable by magic people. So we'll see. And he does put out pretty good damage overall. He can take towers. I mean, he's just a beast, you know. He's very difficult to deal with. He's very disruptive. He can run at the back line. I think you want to max E first for sure. And he does an extra 5% of his magical damage. So I think that overall it's pretty good. So we'll see. I don't think he's necessarily going to be, oh my god, you got to play Mundo every game. But I think specifically against certain Magic champions top lane in certain comps, he could be pretty good. Okay, Gangplank. This is actually a really nice quality of life stuff for Gangplank. An extra 20 on barrels. So if you are using those barrels early on, if you're hitting people a lot with them, that's the second thing that you max. So even in the mid game, it's going to be pretty good. 20 extra. Now it's only to champions, so it doesn't help you with your wave clear at all. But it's pretty good. Give you a little bit of extra damage. So if you're consistently hitting those barrels against melee champs, be pretty good. The more powerful one here, I believe, is going to be Gangplank. So it's going to do 40, 70, 100 damage. So it's going to be more early on, but a little bit less in the late game is what it appears. No, more in the late game. So it's more all around. So that's pretty good, particularly in team fights. If people are going to be sitting in this for quite a while, they can do a lot of damage. It can also help you wave clear a lot faster. Potentially. So overall good. I think that Gangplank potentially into certain matchups is viable if you're going to be able to scale up with him. So I still think this is going to help him out. He's going to be a decent pick if you're good on him. 3 AD, whatever. I mean, I still think that Graves is going to be good overall. I think people just don't pick him, but I still think he's a pretty good champion in the jungle. Dancing Grenade, probably not going to matter. It is of total attack damage, so this effectively is going to mean you're going to get an extra, 3 damage or something in the early game, 5 damage in the mid game, so it's okay. I don't think Jhin's in a good spot right now. I think the nerf to the old Stormrazor really has put him in a weird position. He's not nearly as powerful off a single item, off of getting Infinity Edge, as he was off of the old item. Okay, old Stormrazor. Nunu. This is fairly significant, but I still think Nunu's going to be really good. You do max this first, and people have asked me, well, losing that 40 health, how much does that matter? It's like, well, at level 9, if you're running through your jungle, and you end up chomping, I don't know, at least once per camp. A lot of times you're chomping more than once per camp. This is probably going to be somewhere around like 12 chomps on a clear through the jungle. And so, 12 times 40 is a lot. That's 500 health you're not going to have anymore. Now, yes, you're going to be overhealing sometimes on the chomp, but not always. A lot of times you're getting some effective healing off of this, And so, I think it could be significant, You're going to come out of the jungle after some of your clears, and you're going to be down, 300, 400 health. So, when you have 2,000 health, that's not the end of the world, but it certainly does add up. And you're going to have 20 less early on in the game, and then around level 5, you're going to be doing 20 less per chomp. So, I think it's going to make him a little bit more vulnerable. You're going to have to be careful with your invades. You're going to have to be a bit more cautious if people could invade you. You might actually be able to get blown up by some of these champs a bit more in the early game. So I still think he'll be really good. It might knock like 0.5% off of him, maybe 1%. You still do heal an additional 50% when you're below 50% health. So his heal is still going to be ridiculous in team fights, but not quite as ridiculous as it was. But overall, he'll still be pretty good, I think. Tryn. This is actually a pretty big buff for Tryn, I think. So it's up to 50%. So now you only have to get 2 crit items. So I think that can be pretty legit. Now, it's not going to come online until like level 16, though. So that's a little awkward. But you're only going to be missing, let's see, at level 11, if you get 50% crit, you're only missing 10% instead of 15% at the end. And then once you get to, that's at level 6, and then level 11, you're only going to be missing 5%. So you're probably going to crit them every time, at full fury. So pretty good quality of life buff for Tryn. Extra 15% crit means he doesn't have to buy an additional crit item. So now you can go, Infinity Edge Static or Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer, and then just get some other stuff. I think that's pretty good. So they're giving him more ratio ability power here, but they're knocking off 30 healing, which is quite significant. So that means you'd have to have 300 AP to make up for this. A lot of times, like the most powerful build on Sylas is not going to get a ton of AP. You're going to get Rod of the Ages, which is going to give you, 100 AP. I don't even know what other. So he's been getting like Iceborne Gauntlet, Spirit Visage, Raw of the Ages in a lot of games. I guess you can like Proto Belt has like 60 on it, I think, if you choose to get Proto. So it's definitely a nerf to him. He's pretty decent. I don't know his overall win rates right now, but I think you'll still see him for his utility, but he's not going to be as oppressive as he once was. If you end up maxing Q now, which Freak was saying everybody should be maxing Q after this change, then it actually is better for that build for a lot of the game because you're getting 60 with 1 point in it and 80 at 2 points in it. So I think that could be potentially pretty legit to max Q now instead. So we'll see. I still think he'll be good if you're practiced on him, if you're good with him, if you're making really good use of his passive. So I don't think he's going to be oppressive in solo queue. I think he's still really fun. I think people are figuring him out. He can be viable, but, you know, like I said, I don't expect him to be insane. Let me just see real quick. Like Platinum, how he is in top lane. He's about 50%. He was a lot lower than that. He was at like 45%. So people are figuring him out. He is going up a bit more. People are actually banning him quite a lot. I don't know if that's entirely necessary, but okay. A little bit of power down on him. Now that people are figuring him out, he'll probably still be pretty good. Okay, Yorick. This seems pretty big to me. I mean, the mark damage is going from 5% to 3% early on. So, like, level 6, you're definitely going to feel that. Later in the game, you know, when you're level 16, probably not going to matter as much. It's just 1% at that point. Maiden damage. Yeah, late game doesn't matter. It's like, so early game, you're losing 10 damage off of Maiden because it goes from 10 to 0, and then it's doing 2% max health, 2% less max health. So that's like 30 total damage every time it hits. Pretty significant. I don't think Yorick overkills people a ton. He'll probably still be strong, though. He's one of the highest win rate top laners right now. Isn't he like 54% or something? Yeah, pretty close to 54. He's actually drawing some bans. So I think it's probably a reasonable nerf. He'll still be okay, especially as he scales later on into the game. Okay, Rek'Sai. Okay, yeah, probably not going to matter. Earth doesn't matter. Who cares? Okay, I mean, I guess this is good for Aurelion Soul or something a little bit. There was something about auto attacks, wasn't there? Some champions would sometimes stand in place instead of auto attacking. Yeah, that was pretty troll. I don't know if that's the thing where you would get your autos canceled while you try to attack move. I don't remember if it is. That is really nice, especially for 80 carries, but we'll see. I love these people on here. They're just like, Nunu's being played in pro play. Too much jungle diversity. Nerf him. It's like, dude, they're not nerfing him because of pro play. They're nerfing him because he's really oppressive in solo queue. He has a 55% win rate on a champion that's super easy to play. That's why they're nerfing him. Don't troll. It's not because of pro play. Spoiler alert. It's because he's oppressive as hell. He's really, really good. And he's super annoying to deal with. Like, he can just walk in and take your jungle and just walk out. A lot of times, you can't really fight him. You can't outsmite him. If he walks up, you know, if you're trying to do Dragon or Baron and he flashes for it, he's getting it most of the time. And he just adds so much utility to the team. He's just a tank that's almost impossible to kill. He has a ton of different CC and slows. He buffs up the 80 carries, which are really strong, you know, with his passive Blood Boil. He has a lot of different items he can get to help out his team. He's just a pest. He's really difficult to deal with. So that's why they're nerfing him, because he has an insane win rate. Now, you could say the same about Udyr, but Udyr has different pronounced weaknesses, I think. He does have an overall high win rate, and he's pretty good. I think they should definitely tap down on Master Yi a little bit too. So, you know, I don't think Nunu's the only one that should get nerfed, but he's definitely top of the pile because he's so easy to manage. He's just very strong. So I still think Nunu will be all right. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much. So, you know, the biggest kind of TLDR out of here. We'll see with Kayle. Someone will probably find some build that can exploit. I think that Klepto in lane could be good. I think that in the jungle with like a Bloodrazor, Ginsu's, Blather, and King could be good. If you just want to go for the power farm, she does take dragons really quickly. I think she'll probably be able to clear fairly well just because she gets so much extra attack speed. But, I mean, we'll see. I haven't tried her out, but I think the most likely place she'll be played is in the jungle with specific comps. Just like Master Yi-esque, that just has a slightly different toolkit, a bit more utility, but a bit less raw, like, hard carry potential. 1v9. Yeah, Akali, probably give her a percentage or two. It's okay. Neeko, Rakan, not going to move the meter. Skarner is going to be one of the biggest gainers here. I think he's kind of going to be one of the more overlooked champs of this patch. But that is tremendous. Because you remember why Talia was really strong in the jungle, right? One of her major things was that she moved really quickly because of her passive. This is going to let him run around so much more quickly just because there's so much more surface area of the jungle that's going to be considered his Spire zone. So I think that's something I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, just his move speed in the jungle with this extra Spire range. I think that's going to be really, really big for Skarner. So I think he's the biggest winner of this by far. What's his win rate right now? I feel like he's never, like, completely in the gutter. No, he's like 50, 50.5%. So I expect him to move up, like, maybe 2%, like 52.5%. I think people are definitely going to be talking about him halfway through this patch. Vi, I don't, maybe she is going to have a faster clear. Maybe that makes her stronger. We'll see. I think there's a lot of counterplay to Vi. Relic Shield maybe matters for pro play. Probably not too much. Stormrazor doesn't matter. Aftershock, we'll see. This is a pretty decent nerf, but 2.5 seconds is still a long time to get the job done. You're still getting an insane amount of resist early. Conqueror nerf is going to hurt champions like Riven, like Rek'Sai a little bit more, but realistically, it was already bad on a lot of champions anyway, so maybe this helps those champions like Draven, because maybe they'll realize, hey, I shouldn't get that because it's bad on me. Maybe they'll figure out that Klepto's OP on him. Cho'Gath's probably not going to matter. Mundo makes him a better counter pick against magic users, so that's pretty good. Particularly things that do dot damage, because it's every time he's damaged, I believe, he gets extra stacks. So against Rumble, Cassiopeia, stuff like that, that just wants to do these little damage over time ticks. Yeah, I think that's going to be very nice against him. So he could be a counter pick against that stuff in the top lane. Yeah, Graves, Jhin, Nunu, still going to be good, but definitely a significant nerf, I think. Sylas, probably still good. Decent nerf. I think if you Q-max, it won't matter that much. Yorick's still going to be strong. So I don't think it's going to shake up the meta too much, but pretty good patch overall. I like it. So that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Be sure to tune in for my tier list, which I will release some today and then some over the next couple of days. Come check out the stream sometime. We'd love to have you. It starts around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time most nights. It's a lot of fun. We have a really awesome community. I try to read and interact with the chat as much as I possibly can, so I try to make it, a good experience for you. So come by, check it out. And then check out some of the guides and things on the channel too. I have a one-trick guide, laning guide, macro, micro, just almost anything you can think of. I probably have over 40 guides on the channel, constantly releasing new stuff. So check it all out. And then thank you very much. Don't forget, like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.